So brands are not just about logos and impressions and eyeballs and being in front of people and reach and numbers. It's about impact and the emotional impact that you have on somebody that can lead to some sort of behavioral change, which is the same as saying, yes, go ahead and buy into it.
That's powerful. One of the things that stuck out to me in what you said is that they buy into it. And I thought that little extra word was quite profound.
At the end of the day, a brand is really a set of emotional experiences.
All right, good day, everyone. Welcome to the Caribbean Tech Pioneers podcast. Do show us some love online if you like the show so far, and share it with other folks as you see that they need it. Our guest today is Mr. Zachary Harding, and he's our fourth guest from Jamaica. He's the founding partner of Delta Capital Partners, a private equity group focused on high growth and high impact sectors such as financial services, digital payments facilitation, and digital healthcare and wellness. Zachary is a man of many talents. He's led strategic initiatives at the Jamaican Tourist Board and strategic go-to-market campaigns for top brands Red Stripe and Smirnoff Ice. He's a DJ, selector, and a co-founder of Too Hard Records, which has produced popular songs such as Sim Sima, aka Who Am I from Binnie Man, Baby Girl by Sean Paul, Log On by Elephant Man, and Nike Air by Mr. Vegas. All I have to say is the man bad like crab, and he's one of the happiest corporate executives that I know. So I'm really excited to learn from you today, Zachary.
Thanks for allowing me to be on the program, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Blessings. Okay, let's start with, so from your perspective, what is the current state of growth in the Caribbean region, and what sectors are you very excited about?
There's definitely growth that's taking place. I think we're seeing a shift politically where a lot of the old guard is now retiring, and then you have a new cadre of leadership that is in place. So, in Jamaica, we have Andrew Holness. In Grenada, we have Young Mitchell. In Barbados, you have Motley. So we're definitely seeing that transition. Rowley doing his thing. So I think we're at a stage now where the Caribbean is looking to grow in new and different ways. And I'm happy to just be a part of that era.
Fantastic. And do you see growth on both the physical front? We've always exported our culture to some degree. What are the sectors outside of the physical manufacturing do you see making progress?
Definitely in the service sector. Business process outsourcing has been, one of the growth sectors for sure, as well as hospitality. So we're seeing a lot of investment in, new hotels that are going up. We're seeing a lot of investment, certainly in Jamaica, in what we call BPO or that outsourcing sector. Infrastructure is another area. We're seeing a lot of roads, bridges being built, ports, airports being renovated, refurbished, upgraded. So those are the main sectors that I see. You see also like some healthcare investments taking place, financial services and fintech. So the banks are going through a period now where a lot of the large international banks might not be seeing the growth that they need in the Caribbean. So some of them have made a strategic decision to sell their assets to local and regional entities. And we're seeing a lot of growth by those local and regional entities that are now expanding into other countries. So companies that would have formerly been just in Jamaica, expanding into Trinidad and Grenada and Guyana, St. Lucia, and vice versa.
Great. What do you think is the difference that the local banks, what is it that the local banks are doing differently versus the big banks who had that presence there before that's allowing them to make progress?
Yeah. The local banks are obviously, they have the local knowledge. They have a better understanding of people and what their needs are. And also, if you're part of an international banking group, the contribution that the one company that you have in St. Lucia might be making might be inconsequential to your global growth. And it might be better strategical to say, hey, you know what? Let me sell the bank to Mark. He has a vision and an idea in St. Kitts, which we as a large global institution, we're just, not necessarily so focused on growth in St. Kitts.
Yes.
And then the local banks though have, they have the knowledge, they have the technical expertise, they have people that have been overseas, educated overseas, worked in large institutions overseas, and want to come back to their native land to contribute. So we're seeing a lot of local leadership doing fantastic jobs at these banking institutions.
Oh, that's good to know. And it's cool that folks can contextualize a lot of the things that they see outside and start to grow their own regions.
Yeah.
So you're in private equity. What does that mean for, let's say, I don't want to say the layman person, but let's say if you explain that to someone in high school, and also what is the context that entrepreneurs need to keep in mind when they interact with people in private equity groups?
The private equity, in a literal translation, means having an equity stake or an ownership stake in a privately held company. So you have two types of companies, one that are privately owned. So, Mark and I own a company together. It's called Riverside, and we both own shares in it, right? And it's registered as a private entity, and we manage it, and we have our own little board of directors. You have public entities, which means that they are owned by the public at large, meaning usually 80% of the shares are owned by the public, and they are traded on a stock exchange. So if you want to buy shares into Recap Limited, you can go through a broker or go to the stock exchange and say, I want to purchase 1,000 shares in Recap Limited at $100. And you're going to invest your $100,000 and own a share in that public company. So that's the difference between the two. I have a particular liking for private sector companies because you can get more involved in the management and running of that company. If I buy shares in Grace Kennedy, for example, which is a large Jamaican regional conglomerate, I'm a shareholder, yes, and I can attend a shareholders meeting and I have a right to ask questions about what the management is doing, but I have no influence, right? In a private company, I can now say, listen, Mark, we need to really grow Riverside and expand it. And I think that there's a huge market for the type of content that you're creating in Zambia. So therefore, let's look at an expansion plan to Zambia. Let's jump on a plane. Let's go over there. Let's meet with the local people, et cetera, et cetera. And then I can be more involved. So my background is primarily in management, advertising, marketing, right? So I am kind of programmed and trained to grow businesses. I just look at growth. I'm not like the maintenance guy, like, okay, let's keep things exactly as they are. I get really bored with that. And what can we do completely differently and really take this business to another level? So my choice to get into the private equity came about because I'd worked for several companies in the past. Red Stripe, Grace Kennedy, Wisingo, even worked for government for a while, a couple ad agencies. And I found that I kept on a path of helping them to grow. So I implemented plans, strategies, marketing executions that for the most part had positive results and the companies grew, but I was just a still same salaried employee. So if I was getting $100 a month, I just got the same $100 a month, even if the company doubled in size. And that was great because obviously, there was no risk to me. As an employee, you're not really taking any risk. Your job is to show up, execute against a plan that you've agreed on and do that work. And then in exchange, you get a paycheck. When you now start to take risk, ownership risk, it's different, but the rewards can also be much bigger. So I shifted out of just working for companies to wanting to buy companies, own companies, grow those companies, and in that sense, increase my personal balance sheet, my personal valuation, my personal wealth for me and my family. And if you listen to a lot of people that have been super successful in life, they will always talk about growth through using other people's money or other institutions' money. So if I just work and my salary is $1,000 a month and I decide I'm going to be like really smart and I'm going to save $300 a month. Okay, great. And then at the end of the year, I might have whatever the math works out to be, $2,400 saved up. And then for 10 years, I have $24,000 saved up. That's not getting you to become a millionaire or billionaire at all.
Yes.
I'm going to now have to look and say, okay, we want to grow Riverside. We want to take it to the next level. Zambia is the market. What we're going to need is to have, several other people that can execute locally to do interviews and podcasts. We're going to need to market. We're going to need to get it out to the people. And we're going to go and attract sponsors to the program who want to pay to have their products featured in the background. So we'll go to Shure, the microphone company, and say, hey, listen, we have product branding throughout the entire segment. We want to charge you $1,000 for that product placement and do that. But then now we need to go to entity X to say, I need 10,000 US dollars because I want to now expand across the continent of Africa. And so we need more capital. So the 24 grand that I had saved up is not going to do it. I'm going to have to go to somebody, convince them of the business plan, and also raise the capital from them to really grow exponentially. And that is how you create wealth.
Why do you think a lot of people don't pursue that path?
Fear, as well as lack of an understanding of how it works. So there was a time where I was a little bit judgmental, even of myself, and saying, boy, why can't people get out there and try more things and take risks and start a new business and hustle and try and grow? It's not for everybody. So some people are just best suited to just be a really good employee and just be an A-class manager and just manage the business and manage the assets of somebody else. You need people like that. And if they're doing a good job, pay them really well. But you have other people who may say, no, I want to now take the risk. I have a vision. I want to make this thing even bigger. And I'm prepared to take on that risk. And risk literally means you could lose it all. But then by taking on that risk, you have the opportunity to grow and to make something bigger and better. So different lanes for different people.
In your career trajectory, it seems like you've accrued a certain amount of career capital as you sort of went along, and then you positioned yourself to go on your own. I think one thing I've observed about people at home, especially I think the younger generation who have aspirations of entrepreneurship, is this, I'm going to do everything on my own and I'm going to learn it on my own, versus running the corporate ladder, learning on someone else's dime, understanding how those things actually function, all of the issues. What's your thoughts there?
Definitely. I mean, I would certainly recommend going the route of learning as much as you can before going out and taking that risk, right? And the reason is a lot of the lessons might be relatively simple and rudimentary, but it's just impossible for you to know that until you go through it or see it, right? So having to sell something personal of yours in order to meet payroll to pay your staff is a very gut-wrenching feeling. But if you work in an organization, you're getting your salary anyway, but you see the organization having to figure out ways to raise additional funding or make some changes to be able to afford payroll, it's a bit different. Because at the end of the day, you still know that you're covered. And if that company for some reason can't pay you, you can simply write a resignation, hit send, apply to some other places, and next week you're in a job somewhere else earning a salary doing something. So there's that big difference between having to take on the risk and the headache and just being able to be an effective employee of a company. And I think a lot of people are afraid of taking that risk, one, and sometimes for good reason. And secondly, they also just don't know the route to take and the lessons that they could learn by working in corporate first.
It seems the hardcore entrepreneur type truly despises working for someone else versus, I'm gonna do this somewhere. And I've seen sort of that spectrum. So it's very interesting to see okay, I'm gonna go work for this man for a while, and then you've been quite successful so far. So that's cool.
Okay.
With AI, here's the interesting topic. One of the mechanisms of growth is scaling employees to accomplish more tasks, etc., etc. And when a company scales, naturally you attract bigger and bigger investors as you go along, depending on the path. How do you see AI now changing that notion of scale when it comes to growing a business?
I believe we're in a time, Mark, that we have no clue what the hell is going to happen. Right? This is, and I'm not exaggerating, this is equivalent to the invention of the wheel. This is equivalent to the Industrial Revolution. This is equivalent to the introduction of the steam engine. This is equivalent, or in many ways bigger, to the advent of the internet. Right? The generative aspect of AI, where you can actually prompt it to create and do something and it delivers, is going to be and is already starting to be a game changer. And part of the issue now is we are just online reading some little news and 2 little articles about Chat GPT and how, somebody can use it to help them to write a speech or whatever. We're at for those that are old enough to remember, like the DOS prompt stage of AI. We're at the beginning. So what you and I know, maybe, I don't even know, 5%, 10% of what's already out there that just we haven't been exposed to. So we're at the early stages. It's going to become, it's going to reveal itself a lot more over the coming months, over the coming, years. And we're going to see radical shifts. Just this morning, I got a video from somebody that was generated, and I watched it. I mean, it looked a little bit kind of sketchy, but the point is, it was a human being, looked like a regular run-of-the-mill guy, and he was speaking about the economy and job creation, etc. And it was all AI generated. So the speech wasn't real, meaning somebody prompted it, right? So I said, you know what, let me test this out. I went to ChatGPT and I said, write me a speech as though I'm the prime minister of a Caribbean country, talking about the opportunities for growth in the country and the risks associated with the infiltration of foreign labor to the market. First said, waited about 5 seconds, speech written. And when I read it, I was like, no, man, they must have grabbed this off of the internet somewhere, because it was so, the inflection, it was so on point. And I'm saying, whoa, anybody can do it. This is free. This is open software that's available to any of us. So messaged my friend and I was like, hey, how about this for a speech for the PM? And he was like, great, but we'd have to match it to a voice. And he said, there's a program, Revoicer, where you can train it to know the voice. So you can, like Mark can speak into it. It learns and understands the voice, and then it can deliver that speech in Mark's voice. We are entering a time where we are going to have a difficulty in differentiating between what we know as real and not real. And that to me is a scary part. So coming back now to the impact on jobs and companies and growth, etc. A lot of things are going to be able to be automated in ways that we never thought of. And there will be massive job shifts. Let me not try and be like the negative alarmist conspiracy theorists about job losses. There are going to be job losses for sure. But like with any other time in history, there'll be new jobs that are going to be created. But we're going to have shifts because a lot of the things that were needed in the past are not going to be needed anymore. I mean, one example I'll give you, it's just kind of close to my heart, is the legal profession, right? So my father, lawyer, top lawyer, former attorney general, former president of the Senate, former minister of justice, minister of foreign affairs, Queen's Counsel, now King's Counsel, proper lawyer, right? I said, boy, I want to be like my dad when I was a kid. So I want to go to law school. Went to law school for a year, hated it. Dropped out, left. Didn't finish, right? Started in music business, playing sound system, record producer, etc., record label, all that type of stuff with my brother. And fast forward now, some 30 years later, and I needed a contract for something that I was working on. And again, somewhat as a test, I said, let me go to ChatGPT, and I prompted it and I said, generate a contract for me that talks about assigning proceeds from the sale of one business as security for a short-term loan at a 10% interest rate in order to be able to raise some capital to invest in something else. 5 seconds, contract generated. And I used that contract to raise $100,000 in 2 days.
Wow.
Now, normally I'd have had to pay an attorney and I'd have to wait a couple of days and they'd give me the first version and I'd redline it and send it back to them and then come back. And I'd have to cut a check for whatever, $1,000 or whatever it is. I just did it on my own. So there's going to be a shift where, yes, I guess you're going to need lawyers, but it's going to change because a lot of the tasks that lawyers, and not just, harping on lawyers, but other people would have done, can be done in seconds using AI. This is going to have a drastic impact on the working world. A lot of people, they're going to be, if they don't have some particular skill or something, they're going to be without a job because AI will be able to do the job not only for them, but better and faster and cheaper, if not free. Something that we have to be really aware of.
Ooh. So it's interesting that you're already using it for actual business applications. And one of the things I was thinking a lot about is, I think in the Caribbean and smaller regions, I think outside of the US, the capital expense of employees, well, I think that's in general, that's like one of your biggest capex on your balance sheet. And now, if you don't have to have so many folks to accomplish your business processes, why do you need to keep them? And I think the so-called ethical debate, you should keep them on, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, there's no requirement for someone to give you a job when they start a business. And I think one thing I'm very excited about, at least, is the individual or small teams can now do a lot of things without maybe requiring such a huge team. So I think people can exit companies a lot faster with smaller teams and put all that money into marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, that's another interesting topic. So now marketing, let's talk about AI and marketing and advertising. How do you see that shifting now with AI?
Major shifts, massive shifts. I'll start by answering it in a slightly different way, but then I'll get back specifically to the marketing. So as you know, a DJ for fun. I've been a DJ for 30 years. Did it when I was, a teenager, stopped for a while, started back recently just because of COVID and I missed it and I loved it. So I'm in a group with 150 DJs and we're having a discussion and I'm saying, boy, we really need to pay attention to AI because in the next couple of years, maybe even sooner, you might not have such a job as a DJ anymore because, AI can sort a playlist for you, find the songs, and even mix them and deliver to the public. So the debate started and everybody was like, no, Star, that's not working because, as a DJ, you have to have the emotional connection with the crowd and AI not going to be able to read the crowd like a DJ would. And I said, oh, really? Okay. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to have facial recognition cameras, which already exist. You're going to be able to see what people's moods are on their faces from the camera recognition. You're going to have IoT, Internet of Things devices connected to people. So whether it is a a watch or something like that that's able to tell your pulse intensity, your heart rate, whether you're sweating or not, give you feedback on people's physical responses to things. You're going to walk into a club and you're going to have your phone with you because, you're frigging around on Instagram, taking selfies, sending to people, etc. Right? It's going to be able to read by geolocating who exactly is in that club. Okay, cool. So Mark and Zachary are in the club. All right. So we know a little bit about them. Zachary is this old, Mark is this old, Mark is, from this background. This is Zachary's background. This is who Mark bangs with. This is, where Zachary shops online. Okay, we see where he's married, he has kids, etc., etc. Okay, cool. You know what? We think that the right genre for them based on their age group demographics is going to be some, 2010 to 2015 soca. Because we know that was an era where they were going out a lot and partying. Oh, we see that they actually went to Trinidad Carnival in 2012. Therefore, let me draw for that Bungee Garland that was the top song for that year and let me play that. It will be able to do that. And fairly easy. These are rudimentary things. These are not complex things that I'm talking about. A lot of this technology already exists. So if it is that the AI can do that with something like DJing, then it's going to be just as easy to do that with something like marketing, right? Now, what's the correlation? So I am a marketer. I've been a marketer for, 20 plus years. DJ'd for a while too. I was once interviewed by a journalist and she said to me, Zachary, I don't understand, you seem to be top of your game in terms of marketing, but you don't have a marketing degree. In fact, you don't have any degree. But all the brands that you've worked on have done exceptionally well. Red Stripe, Guinness, Smirnoff Ice, Tanqueray, Coca-Cola, water, Ocean Spray, lots of these brands that you've worked on. Help me to understand. And I hadn't thought about it before. And I said, you know what? The reason why I think I was able to do fairly well and have some success in marketing is because of my DJ. And she was like, what? What is that? I don't get, what's the correlation? I said, because as a DJ, what I'm continually doing is reading a crowd, which is a target market, to assess and deliver a product, which is a song, to get some sort of buy-in response, which is dancing, singing, busting a gunshot in the air, whatever the response is that I want. So I was actually marketing in real time to a target market without even realizing, just by being a DJ. So that same skill set that a DJ would have of reading a crowd, trying to predict and understand what their needs and wants would be and deliver that to them. If as a DJ, I was doing that and marketing without realizing it, then when the AI can do the same thing by reading the crowd, predicting, understand their needs, they will be able to have a better understanding of what you need and deliver that product or service to you. And they'll have a lot more information, right? So they will know things about you that you maybe you forgot. And in that way, they can use that data to position the next product in front of you with a high degree of certainty that that product is going to be of interest to you based on your history. And so marketing will forever be changed because the AI will be able to do predictive things that even humans would have struggled with in the past.
What are your thoughts on the plethora of ads that are coming to us now across different platforms? And one of the things that started to stick out to me is, okay, if I can now generate these hyper-personalized ads to people, it now to some degree becomes an arms race of capturing your eyeballs. It's always been an arms race to capture someone's eyeballs, but I think even more so now. And yeah, any thoughts on the actual capturing of eyeballs and how that's progressing?
Sure. So I think people in the ad and marketing world have made a business out of selling to sponsors reach, right? So this podcast has a reach of 1 million people. We're going to get 1 million eyeballs and ears to listen to this podcast. Oh, wow. Okay, that's amazing. All right. I'm sure microphone. Yeah, definitely want 1 million eyeballs. So I'm going to cut you a check and I'm going to sponsor your program. Okay, great. But the person watching just may not be the target market for Shure microphones. So they've convinced somebody to spend money to place ads and to get eyeballs. But in fact, a lot of us are not buying that way. I don't click on ads online. I can't tell you that I've ever been searching somewhere and saw something and be like, oh, wow, okay, that's really cool. Let me click on that. Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to go and buy. I just don't act that way. So even though companies have made it their business to try and get in front of people online for visibility, it doesn't necessarily mean it's working. So they're now going to have to rethink to say, okay, it's not just about impressions. Whether, if you're a tech person, the web development world back 10, 15 years ago, it was about the number of impressions. Okay, well, you might get 1 million impressions and no sales versus having the impact by reaching somebody appropriately in some other way, and you might generate 10 sales out of it, and your impressions were only 20. But the hit rate, so to speak, would have been much higher. So when we talk about marketing and branding, one of the things that I speak about, and I actually have a course that I teach on this, is, and I'm going to give it the end part because it's like a 1 hour long presentation. What is a brand? Right? That's the presentation. What's a brand? And it's a brand through the lens of emotional intelligence. At the end of the day, a brand is really a set of emotional experiences. Right? So what is Mark's brand? Okay, well, to Zachary, let's say Mark was trying to do this podcast before, and 3 times when we had it scheduled, he was late and he had to cancel because he had some emergency, had something else that came up. Okay, well, my perception of Mark's brand would be he's unprofessional, he's unreliable, he's wasting my time, and therefore I really don't want to participate in this podcast because it's rubbish. And I may never even have met you in life. Contrast that now with, okay, I heard from Mark, me and him sat down, we chat, we had a good rapport, he's doing his thing, he reached out to me, I agreed to do the podcast, he was on time, professional, approach was taken, the setup was great, we had a really good conversation. Okay, cool. The brand of Mark in my mind is going to be positive. And then now, if a friend reaches out and says, hey, Mark reached out to me and you want to do a podcast, what do you think? My response is going to be yes, which is the same as saying, yes, go ahead and buy into it. So brands are not just about logos and impressions and eyeballs and being in front of people and reach and numbers. It's about impact and the emotional impact that you have on somebody that can lead to some sort of behavioral change. So as a DJ, the emotional impact I have on you is that I played the top 5 songs that you really loved that took you back to a time and space in your life when you met your first girlfriend and you were like really excited and you went to a party and you used to dance with her and it was a lot of fun. So I've now captured that part of your life by playing some songs. All of a sudden, I'm your favorite DJ. You've never met me in life. You just heard me play. So, and when you hear now, okay, Zachary's going to be DJing at this concert, at this party coming up, yo, man, we have to go. DJ is dope. He's wicked. Like, I can't wait. And it's based on a set of emotional experiences. And that's what my brand is to you. So marketing has to now shift more to what is the emotion associated with your brand, and not just about being in front of somebody for them to eyeball your logo and your brand and your product. It's about an emotional connection.
That That's powerful. One of the things that stuck out to me in what you said is not that someone buys it, is that they buy into it. And I thought that was that little extra word was quite profound, just because it has so much more depth than the product only. It's the values of the brand, the longevity, etc., etc.
And these things are provable, you know. So if I say to you, okay, what do you think is a better car? What if you had a choice? What would you buy? If I was going to give you a car, and I said to you, you can have a BMW, a Mercedes, a Rolls Royce, or a Bentley, what would you choose? It's a real question I'm asking. What would you choose?
I'd probably choose the BMW.
BMW, okay. Why?
They're just sporty and they engineered well, I think.
Okay, cool. Do you own a BMW now?
I do not.
Right, okay. You've driven in a BMW before?
I don't think I have.
Okay. So this is a good example, right? This is a good example. You had a perception that a BMW was nicer because it was sport, and in your mind, it probably suited your lifestyle a little bit better. Something that you could see yourself driving and owning, and it would be a nice experience, etc. You probably had more of a connection with that BMW for whatever reason than with a Bentley. A Bentley might be a far superior car, and I don't know. I'm not putting any judgment for the car enthusiasts out there, right? But it's the point, which is you had a preference, and that preference would have been based on information that you'd have been fed over time that would make you have a particular preference, right? That is the impact and the power of marketing. And so we create these preferences in people's minds based on the information that they're fed over time. So now imagine artificial intelligence being able to map your mind, understand what your needs are and what your preferences are, and then position particular products in front of you because they happen to know that you would prefer a car that is more sporty and peppier and cool than a car that might be more regal and elegant and uber luxurious, because it just might not be your preference. And that's how AI will impact marketing.
It's going to get difficult. And one of the trends that I've been watching a lot as I search for guests for this podcast and some other podcasts that I'm going to launch is the power of the individual and the power of the individual brand. I'm seeing a lot of really popular chefs that are from Jamaica. And I noticed I don't know if that's just me becoming more aware of how big the chef or the cooking culture is in Jamaica, and sort of people doing that. I actually met I was a personal chef for some very wealthy people, like 1% wealthy. And I thought that was quite interesting as to the power that these people have to capture our attention, but also capture our emotions, like you're saying. And now I'm updating my own brain on the emotional filter, which is exciting. What advice do you have for folks wanting to grow their brand?
You have to understand it, and you have to create a story around it, first of all, right? So everybody has a personal brand, just like how every product has their brand. So you have a preference for BMW over other cars listed, right? Because of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions associated with that particular car, that particular brand. It's the same thing with people. Think about, you go to a party and there's 3 girls and you're single and you're interested in meeting somebody new, and you're at an age where, you might be trying to find like a girlfriend or partner to, grow and build a life on. You're going to meet the 3 of them. You're going to make an assessment. Depending on how you are, your first assessment might be physical appearance. Oh, I happen to like girls that are taller. That's just my thing. I seem to be more attracted to taller girls. Okay, cool. All right. Second thing might be, I like girls that dress conservatively. I'm just making it up, right? So I'm not interested in the girl that has all the tightest, shortest shorts and the tightest crop top that is showing off her body. That's not my thing. I'm like a more modest guy. So she's telegraphing something to me about her based on what she's wearing. Okay, that particular one, she had a nice pair of jeans and an attractive blouse and stuff. I like how she put herself together. Okay. I also like a girl who is intellectual that I can have some good conversation with. So that one, when I was chatting to her, all she was doing was taking selfies and wanted to ask me about, where I work and how much money I make. That's not my speed. This other one over here, I was talking to her and she was concerned about the development of adolescents nowadays and, the impact of social media on brain function and how that intersects with use of performance-enhancing drugs. Wow, okay, that's deep. Like, I'm into that. I want to talk to her more. So out of the girls that are there, each of them had a particular brand, and one of them stood out for you as your preferred brand. Okay? That is what a personal brand is all about. And so perhaps that girl would have said, you know what? I don't want to be the superficial, selfie-taking, chatting about, what type of purse and shoes and perfume that I'm wearing. That's not me. That's not my thing. So she would have made a personal choice. That's not her lane. And so in doing that, she would have been on a path to creating her own personal brand. We all do this, some more consciously than others. It is going to be increasingly more important in a hyper-competitive universe what your personal brand is, because that's your story. That's who you are, or at least who you're presenting yourself to be in front of others. And that's going to have an impact in terms of who wants to do business with you and who wants to buy things from you and who wants to collaborate with you to grow and develop and expand. And that personal brand is absolutely important.
And have you been developing your personal brand intentionally for a long time? Or is this something that was kind of natural to you as you went along?
Good question. I think in some shape or form, we're always working on our personal brand, whether intentionally or not. So, Mark decides that he wants to do podcasts and, he's going to keep himself fairly well groomed, have a little beard action going on, keep it down low and, have a nice haircut. That's part of your personal brand. You could have decided to say, yo, you know what? I'm going to grow up my hair long and have it flowing down and be fully clean shaven and, have some tattoos up to here on my neck. And that would be your personal brand. So we're all doing it, whether consciously or unconsciously. If you are in the business world and if you're also in more public-facing spaces, it becomes more important, and I would encourage people to think about it a lot more. So I would have maybe spend some time saying, okay, I want to be seen or known as initially, a marketing advertising guy. So I'd put myself into those spaces of being around people and being immersed in marketing, advertising type things, going to trade shows, going to expos, working on campaigns, being out there in the field as a brand manager, representing my brand, having on my branded shirt, encouraging people to buy my products, etc. And I would have done that for some time. And then now, one of the things that I've been really interested in, and it's part of something that I talk about in a TED Talk that I did, is authenticity, right? Because yes, to a certain extent, you can create a personal brand and you can choose and decide. But if your personal brand is, I'm an intellectual guy who does podcasts, who interviews interesting people, and I want to spread the knowledge and share the information out there, that's great. But then if we find out that in the background, you are really, a scammer, and you were, the way that you bought your BMW wasn't from sponsorship money from your podcast, but it was because you are calling people overseas and encouraging them and threatening them to send money to you back home, then your personal brand would have been eroded because your persona of being, a good, clean-cut guy interested in interviewing people to get information out there to help the youth and help others would have been decimated by the truth that you're really a criminal. So the more authentic you can keep your brand, meaning that you are who you pretend to be and who you are representing, it makes it easier to be more consistent and believable and to have a stronger, more powerful brand. Right? I'm going to give you a really bad example and perhaps controversial, right?
Okay.
Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I said Donald Trump, you said, because you have some specific thoughts about it. Right? And this is on the internet, so we're not going to go too deep. But if I was to say to you, okay, describe Donald Trump in 5 words, you'd have very specific things that you could say right away that you'd use to describe it. Now, one of the things about Trump, and I'm not a Trump fan, I think I'm okay to say that, but one of the things about Trump that interests me is that he is consistent with his brand. So whatever that thing is, he's very consistent with it. And that consistency also reads as authenticity. So you may not like him, or you may like him, but one thing you cannot deny is that he comes across as being very authentic in his beliefs.
Yes.
It doesn't feel to me like he's making anything up. It feels to me like what he says, he truly believes that is accurate. Now, whether you support that or not, different argument. But he's very, very consistent in what his brand is, and he doesn't really waver from that particular brand.
Yeah, and I think it gets even more interesting now where it almost seems like people have to take a stance, and there's this blending of politics with personal beliefs and corporate work, and it gets quite interesting. One of the things I think I've personally struggled with is a big part of my personal brand is fitness. And I think there's a very negative connotation to exemplifying the results of fitness, which is typically, for a guy, it's like, okay, I'll show myself half naked with a 6-pack just to showcase, hey, I've worked very hard to maintain my body. That is a symbol of a particular amount of discipline and a particular amount of dedication to attempting to live as long as I can. And I think even as I've starting to climb the corporate ladder, deciding whether or not I want to climb the corporate ladder, always have in the back of my mind, hey, if someone found a half-naked picture of me with a 6-pack and I going to try to become a CEO, how is that going to affect my career? How have you, what's your advice there?
We're in an age where everything is very visible, right? Mm-hmm. So we all have our own personal TV stations and radio stations, right? We all have our own personal media houses, and we have a couple. One is called Instagram, right? One is called Twitter, one is called YouTube. And I can create whatever persona, so to speak, I want to put out there and let that be my focus. So that's a big difference than, say, 20 years ago when we didn't have that. And so you're just really building your personal brand on a one-on-one basis by how people interact. I could have that personal brand and I'm into fitness and, I want to showcase, the gains that I've made on my body and I'm putting that out there. Showing my workouts, I'm showing my routines, I'm talking you through nutrition and, the changes that I made. I'm showing you before and after pictures. My brand is out there. You've created a perception in your mind. But maybe you really don't know that in the background I smoke cigarettes and I eat fast food, right? So there can be a disconnect there, but we have the opportunity to put whatever we want to put out there. That moves us now to what are people's perceptions about it and what is the impact that has. So a real personal example for me is I'm a corporate guy, right? I'm, corporate nerd, been working in corporates for the last, 30 years, pretty much. But I actually happen to be a DJ. And some people can't reconcile that. they find it strange. It's either like, okay, well, you're not really a corporate guy because, you're a DJ. Like, what kind of corporate guy could you be, while you're actually a DJ? And for some people, it's the opposite. It's like, yo, you're really a wicked DJ. You need to give up this corporate life and get back into music and, go produce some songs and manage some artists out there. And they think that people can't do multiple things at the same time. It is about how you want to present yourself. And it comes back to, as I said, that thing about authenticity. If you're just a fitness guy and you want to share with other people your journey and help somebody out there to improve their physical well-being, but at the same time, you want to be CEO of a company, why not? Who is anybody to tell you, no, Mark, boy, if you're putting those half-naked pictures up, man, with your abs and six-pack showing, that's not a good look as a CEO. Well, why not? That's you being authentic. You enjoy working out and you enjoy keeping in shape. And you also want to be able to showcase to people the journey that you've taken and the results that you've gotten that have made you be a healthier, happier human being. What's wrong with that? Why does an executive have to be a fat, big belly man in a suit that doesn't take care of themselves, that, that's the image that they have? No. And I just think we're in a time where authenticity is going to play more of a role. And I think people need to just be allowed to do whatever they want to do. And then things will separate. So if you want to put yourself out there as, a party animal and, you just taking shots all the time and drinking with your friends and burning weed and, whatever, and staying out late and stuff, do that. But just know that there might be a risk associated with it where I may now say, that's not the type of corporate executive that I prefer to be aligned with. I remember now, you have chosen to put that out there. You've put that on your Instagram. You broadcast to people, this is who I am. Just be prepared to manage the consequences that may come with that.
Do you see the new generation of younger people? I think between COVID and I think just us being more aware, we did not necessarily have to struggle as much as your generation in terms of you had to go through the grind in order to build a base to accumulate capital. And we now get to ask ourselves, what the hell is this thing all about? And as you've pursued your career, there's this notion of a career optimization function. Some people optimize for wealth. Some people optimize for time with family, freedom, etc. Freedom of time, autonomy. What's been your career optimization function? Naturally, it may have changed over time.
Well,
what was it early on, or what is it now? In terms of, is it family now, etc., etc.?
Right. You hit the nail on the head because it's changed over time, right? At first, it was about understanding my craft and getting good at it. So it was about learning and learning from the best out there. I started off doing a bunch of things. I was a bellman at Crown Plaza Hotel, right? That was my first job. So I dropped out of law school, decided I wasn't going back, told my dad, had that difficult conversation. He was an absolute star about it. He was like, listen, son, I support you in whatever you want to do. I wouldn't want you to do something that didn't make you happy. But whatever it is, just try and be the best at it. And that was his sage advice. And I had to get a job. I got a job as a bellman at Crown Plaza Hotel. And I tell that story often because everything that I ever needed to learn about customer service, I learned being a bellman carrying people's bags. I learned by having to check somebody in at 3 o'clock in the morning when they've come off of a flight from the UK and their bags are missing. And how do I host and accommodate that person and make them feel like they're, happy to be in Jamaica anyway? So it changes. At first, it was about my craft and understanding what I was doing and trying to perfect that. I then got a job in advertising. So I wanted to learn everything about graphic design, about radio and TV production, about copywriting, about buying media. Again, my dad's advice, trying to be the best at whatever I was, deciding to do. Over time, that has changed where it's I still want to be the best at whatever I'm doing, but I realize that life is short. I've lost a lot of friends over the last 5 years for various reasons. Just, people passed away from different health things, whatever. So I'm at a phase now where the work-life balance, which barely existed when I was in my 20s, I've had to now recalibrate that. And to be quite honest, my focus now is on happiness and peace. I want less drama in my life, right? I want less arguments with people. I'm not trying to prove anything as I would have been maybe 20 years ago to people. Yes, I want to do well. Yes, I want to make a bunch of money and, cut deals and do great deals. And yes, my name is in the paper and I'm a relatively public kind of person. But those things don't matter too much to me as much anymore as personal connection matters to me. If I can become brethren with Mark and really get along and sit eye to eye and, reason about some things and learn from you and say, whoa, I didn't really think of it that way before, Mark. That's very interesting. That's very helpful. Thank you for that. And work on who I am as an individual. That is more of what my path is now. And obviously, family is critical. Family is important. But again, phases and stages. My daughters are 27 and 24. College graduates, right? So they are now self-sufficient, right? So they don't live with me. They live overseas. So right now, for me, it's not really about family time because half my family lives overseas. I'll spend a lot more time with my wife. I'm very interested in, what are the things that we can work on together? What's our approach to nutrition? What are we eating at home? Are we spending any time going for walks? Are we appreciating nature? Are we doing meditations together? What information are we consuming? What does she watch on TV versus what do I watch on TV? So those type of things now are what is more important to me. How am I developing as a person? And how does that now allow me to hopefully have a more positive impact on my community?
I wanted to talk to you about the special case. So I have a silent fear. Now it's a broadcasted fear. For the introverted, if I can attach a label to people, the introverted female in a financially distressed situation in the Caribbean specifically, because I feel the Caribbean especially is a very extroverted community. You tend to gain success if you exhibit those behaviors. Naturally, if you're a guy, you might have certain advantages, etc., etc. What would you say to a parent, or even to that young person directly? What's your advice on how they now approach career with AI, with this new landscape of things that are coming?
Life is very, very short. Right? It's a lot shorter than we think. We might be here another 40 years or we might be here another 40 minutes. Nobody knows the time nor the hour. So a lot of the things that we fear, so as an introvert or as a female introvert in a financial distress situation, there'll be a lot of fear associated with that. How am I going to survive? I'm not that loud out there person. I'm not comfortable with putting myself out there in front of people. I don't really like interacting with people. How am I going to survive? How am I going to make money? And I think that the thought process should kind of shift to, what's my level of happiness? Because I only have one life to live. So how am I grading and measuring myself? Is it based on my monthly net income? Or is it based on the number of followers that I have on Instagram? Or the amount of likes that I'm getting for a story? Or is it just based on if I sit in a quiet room by myself, what score would I give myself from 1 to 100 in terms of my level of happiness? And I think there ought to be a shift more towards how happy are you? How satisfied are you with the person that you are? And work on that more so than necessarily what's my paycheck at the end of the month. Clearly, you need money to survive, right? I remember a former boss once told me, anybody who says money can't buy happiness is shopping in the wrong places, right? So there is a correlation with your level of comfort, safety, security, etc., by having the means to afford certain things. But you have a lot of rich people who are unhappy and miserable, right? So assess for yourself, like, what's my level of happiness? How satisfied am I with the person that I am? Focus and work more on those things, and then the funds will follow. Because if you are comfortable with who you are, people will see it. If you're happy as an individual, people will feel it. Therefore, people will naturally gravitate towards you more. So you can still be an introvert, but you'll be much more liked, so to speak, or maybe respected, might be more important. And the opportunities that you can create for yourself will be more abundant. Because people can see and feel your level of comfort with yourself. You can tell when you meet somebody and they're shifty and they can't really talk to you properly and you're looking at them saying, boy, this person not so comfortable in life, you know. I don't see that I could necessarily work with them because there's just something that just makes me uneasy. As opposed to you meet somebody, they're simple, they're humble, they're quiet, they don't make a lot of noise. But their presence, you can feel their presence because you can feel that they're comfortable with themselves. That to me is what people should be focusing a lot more on. Going back to one of my first original words, authenticity, to be authentically happy. I'm not making it up. I'm not pretending and posting pictures of myself, you know, in the gym saying, wow, great workout today, when I really hate working out. No, just be authentic. And if I enjoy working out and that's my thing, just focus on that. Don't focus as much on having to publicize that. People will see it naturally and gravitate towards you naturally. Work on who you are as a human being.
I haven't really heard that from much wealthy people, so I appreciate you sharing that for sure. One of the things
I'm gonna interject just for a second because I want to share this, right? Bit of a personal story, but you know, we're chatting. 5 years ago, working super hard, you know, making good money, doing well, definitely getting my name, my brand out there more and more. And went to bed one night and my wife felt the bed shaking. She touched me. I was unresponsive. She turned on the light and I was having a full-blown seizure in my sleep. Right? Rushed me to the hospital, did a bunch of tests. I have no memory or recollection of it. At the end of the day, they couldn't find any specific reason. And the doctor said, probably just stress-related. You know, working way too hard. But I remember, Mark, being on that hospital bed and thinking to myself, with all of the gains that I'm making now, you know, money that I'm making, name out there, doing stuff, I could have just died yesterday. And all that money that I'm chasing, couldn't physically take it with me. So in a way, that money that you're chasing is not real. Yes, you can use it to do cool stuff. I could buy, you know, apartments, houses, physical things for my family members, help them to be more safe and secure. You know, I could donate it to charities and causes to physically help people improve their living situations. But it wouldn't necessarily make me a better human being or make their memory of me as somebody who recently died be any more positive. So I really started to question my relationship with money. And so, well, how important is it? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to die. I can't carry it with me. What's going to be important? What do I want to leave as a legacy? As a father, let's just strip it down. As a husband and a father, what would I want to leave? Would I want my kids to say, boy, dad left me an apartment and a bank account with some money in there, so, life can be a little bit easier for me. But he was a real asshole. He wasn't a nice person. He never spent any time with me. He wasn't there for me. I couldn't depend on him or trust him, and didn't really give me much advice in life. He wasn't really much of a role model for me to pattern myself. We didn't really get along. Would that make me feel good if I left physical assets for them, but that was their perception of me? Versus, boy, my dad never really had it like that, He wasn't a wealthy person in terms of money. But what he left was a legacy of how I could be a better person and live a better life. And for that, I'm eternally grateful, and I will love him till thy kingdom come. That to me is more important, right? So trying to now sift through and assess the value of physical things like money versus who you are as an individual. My dad didn't leave me in monetary assets per se, but he's left me like a bunch of one-liners that have been critical in my life in terms of guiding me and steering me down the right path. When I was 13 years old, driving to school with my dad, feeling like I'm a big man at 13. And I said to him, Dad, what makes somebody a man? Like, at what point do I become a man? Is it when, I start to be able to grow a beard? Is it when I can drive? Is it when I get my first girlfriend? Is it when I get a job? Is it when I graduate from school? Like at what point? What's that turning point to become a man? My dad, driving, simply said, son, being a man or a woman, for that case, really means two things and two things only. So I'm like, if I hear this, no, because I want to know if it's like a dollar figure or if it's like a, And he said, one, you have to know what your responsibilities are. And two, you have to take care of them. And at 13, I was blown away. Like the sky just, I was like, that's what it means to be a man. And he was just simply saying, that is what is important. We all have responsibilities. So if you have a family and you have kids and a wife, those are your responsibilities. If you're in a particular job, you play a particular role, those are your responsibilities. If you're an airplane engineer, you have particular responsibilities. You need to maintain that airplane engine. So one is knowing what they are, and the second is taking care of them. And once you can do that, then you can really say that you are a man or a woman. And I believe that is what we should all be striving for, to be more responsible citizens in this global world.
Well, that's clean, just simple, have no big thoughts about it. Yeah. Pops sound like a cool fella, man. Pops gone? Oh, cool, he's still around.
Oh, man, Pop's still there. Still 88. Still batting.
Yeah, 88?
Yeah, man.
You know what? One thing about the Jamaican people, live in America. So you see how the food system is constructed as a slavery system. And I think at home in Jamaica, y'all have one of the few remaining sort of truths when it comes to there is good food. There is good organic local food, and people trust the earth. They go back to the earth and have that close contact. So it's nice to see that health and happiness is such a big thing. So I've definitely taken those lessons. And as a young man, you're pursuing your wealth. I've been thinking a lot about that too. I think as I think about my parents getting older, I ask myself, hey, you know what? All this money I have now, I could probably take it and grab some memories, because when they're gone, they're gone,
Yeah, exactly.
Do you read a lot?
I actually do not read a lot.
Okay. This is
I know that one of those weird things. I just don't. I'll read articles and I'll pick up bits and pieces, but I'm not the guy that sits down there and reads that library of books that's behind you for whatever reason. And it's not something that I'm proud of, but I don't enjoy reading books. I'll listen to stuff, right? I'll listen to some audiobooks and stuff, but I'll also listen to people. So I'll talk to people a lot and I'll just absorb what they say.
Yeah, I know we're getting to time here. And so you've answered a fair amount of the questions that I had. I think the one thing I wanted to ask was, aside from the youth pursuing happiness to some degree, their own internal happiness, not necessarily external things, what's your advice to parents on guiding their kids, and also just for young people as they navigate the changing corporate landscape? Because I think a lot of us rely on the corporate landscape to live versus us being able to do things independently. Any thoughts there?
Lead by example, and also spend time with your children to understand what they're going through. Absentee parentism is a big issue, right? Mothering and fathering somebody is more than just, procreating and giving birth, right? Being there for somebody. I have a couple youngsters who, they call me pops. I'm like a kind of like a godfather to them. Not related by blood in any way, but I enjoy sitting with them and I enjoy listening to them, and I let them know that I'll spend the time. I want to hear the things that are on your mind, and I want to help to answer the questions that you have, because I may have gone through it already. So I may be able to share a perspective that can help you better navigate a situation. I've benefited from that, from my father, and from a lot of teachers and a lot of coaches. So I play a lot of sports in my life, play football, cricket, rugby, etc. Right? So I've been coached by a lot of people. And sometimes it's just that one line. Playing football once, Ashbury College in Canada, 1992, went to finals. I was captain of the team, and I just wasn't really having a particularly good game first half. And every time I touch a ball, I'd make a bad pass or something, I'd be like, damn it, man. And that's what I was playing, right? Because to me, I was like, well, I'm letting on my side. I'm not, doing what I'm supposed to do. I kind of felt like I wanted people to know that I was disappointed with my own performance because I was not living up to my own expectation. Came off halftime, and my coach blasted me. And his general theme was, stop feeling sorry for yourself. What's with the throwing up of your arms in the air and holding your head and stomping your foot on the ground and cursing? That's not helping anybody. He said, who are you trying to impress with that? That's not making you play any better. It's just making people doubt your presence on the field because you look like you're doubting yourself. He said, go back out there and just do one thing differently. Just have fun. That's it. Go out there and just have some fun. Express yourself on the ball. If you make some mistakes, I don't care. Nobody cares. In fact, go out and make some mistakes, but try something different. And that wasn't really the advice, that I was expecting. And I said, all right, cool. Well, I can't get any worse. And I went back out there and I just started to have fun. And I just, pop into like a style and dribbling differently and trying some things. Ended up scoring. And we ended up winning the championship. Right? Wow. And it was my coach taking the time to listen to me, read me, understand me, and just give me that one bit of advice. And so that's a difference that a parent can make in a child's life. But oftentimes, parents don't spend the time to listen to their kids or to spend the time to try and give them proper guidance. And the role of a parent is not just to curse and scold and make somebody feel bad and put them down. When I was your age, I was doing X, Y, and Z, and you children nowadays, that's not helping anybody. All they're doing is tuning out. They don't want to hear from you. So parents, spend time with your kids. Get to understand their world. Don't dismiss it. If social media is a part of their life, it's real. Try to understand what it is like as a 12-year-old living in a world of social media, right? And then guide them to be able to say, listen, not because your friend Becky has on a half-revealing swimsuit song on the beach and she's 13 years old means that you need to do that. No. What is that statement that you're making about yourself? Think that through, because the world is looking at your Instagram and the world is now reading your personal brand. Is that what you want to be known as? Do you think an influencer is really a career that you can maintain? Okay, what do you really want to be known as? Well, you know something? You're really interested in marine life. Okay, well, when you go to the beach, instead, why don't you share some pictures of stuff that you found along the beach when you were walking and talk about climate change and preservation of endemic species? Because that's going to send a different message than showing you bent over with your ass up in the air in a thong. Spend time understanding the world that your kids live in. Start to be able to interpret it and help them to navigate the world that they are currently occupying.
I know we had time here, so I want to respect your time, and I want to say that I think if anybody meets you, they'll be reminded that life is short. They'll be reminded that one of the most important things is joy. That's what I felt when I spoke to you. And that had an impact on me, because I think we do forget that we're going to fall off the cliff at the end. And absolutely. Yeah, man, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the lessons, and I hope those are listening. But just take it easy and stay focused.
Absolutely. And I mean, I appreciate the time to be able to come on your podcast and share. And for anybody that's, watching, I hope that these things can have an impact on their lives. One of the things that I really wish is that I can share some of my life lessons with people while I'm also learning from them. Because we want to be better people. I want to be a better person. I want to be able to be of service to Mark and of service to Riverside. And I think if more people can be better people to each other, then a lot of the problems that we have in the world would be reduced. And then we can enjoy this limited time that we have on this pretty blue planet.
Yeah, man. Respect.